Okay, I'm Harriet. I'm the Jewish jail lady, and I'm addicted to redemption. And what do I mean by that? A number of years ago, I was being given some kind of an award, and they were putting together a book, and they said to me, "What would you say describes best what your mission is?" And I said, "There is nothing as moving as witnessing the transformation of the human spirit." And that really, over the years, became my greatest high. How I got there was an unlikely story, because prior to my addiction to redemption and finding my mission, I was addicted to misery. A friend of mine a number of years ago, who I had guided to AA, said, "Harriet, it's too bad you're not an alcoholic. Maybe you could get some help." My drug really was misery, and my misery was the inner conflict between who I thought I was supposed to be, defined by my mother and my culture, and the inner voice that wanted something different. I don't know how many of you remember a book called Marjorie Morningstar. There was Marjorie and Shirley, and that, when I read that, I think in the 50s, that defined my inner conflict. There was the bohemian girl, and then there was the nice Jewish girl who married the lawyer and had 2.5 children and lived happily ever after, and that was Shirley Morgenstern. And I had Marjorie and Shirley battling within me. And Shirley was the one my mother wanted me to be. And Marjorie was my voice from somewhere else. And for years, I tried to put them together to heal the hole in my soul and become a whole soul. And I thought that that would happen if I could find the right guy, a guy who would help bring those two pieces of me together. And I had addiction to romance too at some point or another, and didn't find the right guy, married and divorced, had a child, and none of it helped me to put together the nice Jewish girl with the one who liked bad boys. And that was my misery. And at a very low point in my life, my bottom, my child had gone off to college. I was alone. I was divorced again. I was broke. I was about to be homeless. And I really thought about ending it. I had flirted with suicide a lot of my life. I had no faith in any higher power. I didn't believe in anything except life is hard and then you die. I define myself as an existentialist. What's the point? Nothing matters. Why bother? And I had a very melancholy temperament. But a friend of mine had gotten involved with metaphysics, and she said, "Well, before you off yourself, go see this lady called Janet Levy. She's the miracle lady. She expect a miracle." That was on her card. And I thought that was kind of hokey. I didn't believe in miracles, and I didn't believe in God, and I didn't really believe in anything. But I was so desperate, I went. And she was a kind little Jewish lady, and she said, "What is it that you want, my dear?" And I said, "That's my problem. I don't know what I want. What I want is I want to know what I want." And she said, "Do you pray?" I said, "No, I don't pray. I'm an intellectual, secular Jew. We don't pray." And she said, "I'm going to pray for you. Father of the universe, take this woman by the hand and guide her to her rightful work. She knows she wants to make a difference, but she doesn't know how." And she said, "That's it. Now you just pay attention." And I left her office, that was kind of hokey. But I was unemployed, and I had left social work. I was looking for something bigger. But something said to me, why don't you see what social work has to offer? And when the classifieds came that Sunday, I looked and I said, well, there was this little ad, the smallest ad in social work, and it said, person of Jewish background and culture to work with Jewish criminal offenders, masters in social work required. And it was that moment. It was that miracle. Because if you are a nice Jewish girl who likes bad boys and you're a social worker and you see an ad to work with Jewish criminals, you got to say, God, this shit really works. This is a miracle. And I made a very conscious and rational decision not to call that a coincidence and to hear that as a call. And that changed everything for me. I had always had a vision. I had a missionary soul, really, but I never could sustain anything. I would start. I would get business cards made. I would have ideas, and then when it got difficult, or somebody challenged me, or I felt foolish, or something didn't work, I would quit. But because I decided to believe that I had been guided to my work, I had sustained this for over 35 years. And so I began going around to jails and prisons looking for Jewish men and women. And I was hooked from day one. I loved the people I was meeting. They were a mirror of my own split, of my own duality. They were good people and they did terrible things. And they couldn't put the parts of themselves together. And I recognized that. And I realized that if I were to be able to help these people to put themselves together to unify their opposing parts, I would have to find a way to do that for myself. That I would have to heal the hole in my soul so that I could reflect back wholeness to the people who were broken and fragmented like I was. And it wasn't that I had done the things that they had done. And there's a teaching, and it's in my book, by a rabbi who was a holy soul who worked with criminals and dope fiends, and his disciples said to him, Rabbi, how can you relate to these people? You're such a holy man. And he said, when I look at them, I see myself. And it isn't that I have done what they have done, but I recognize in them the same traits in me. And once someone came and I couldn't find that part of me that was in him, and then I knew the truth that I must be lying to myself. And that's really has defined my mission. That although I didn't have a substance abuse, and one of my talks is you don't have to be an addict to be in recovery, I had all the same traits. I had the same difficulty integrating the opposing parts of myself. And so I began to look to Judaism for teachings that would help me to become whole. And there's some significant teachings that I found that have helped me and that I was able to transfer to other people and to help them. And there was the basic idea that we are created by God with opposing inclinations. It's not pathology. It's part of being human, whatever you want to call those parts. Rabbi Dr. Twersky calls them the animal part and the angel part, the divine part and the animal part, the earthly inclination and the divine inclination, the Yetzer Tov, the good inclination, and the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. If you use Jungian terms, persona and shadow, ego and id, that is who we are. And the teaching that really changed me the most, which I found in Judaism, was that the good inclination is good and the evil inclination is very good. And that is a paradox. That said to me, this dark part of me, the disconnected part, the bad girl, the one that didn't fit with my image, had a message. And the challenge was to take the energy of that part and transform it through right action. And so a major teaching at Beit Tshuva became, do the next right thing, no matter what you feel. So I started, joined a band of 5 or 6 other social workers, Jewish jail ladies, we were called, up and down the state of California looking for Jews. And there was nowhere for them to go when they got out. The community had nothing. So I would meet someone while they were in, and I would say, hey, when you get out of here, come to our offices and we'll help you find a way to not have to come back here again. And they would come, and there was nowhere for them to go. And so I would get on the phone and start calling around different organizations. I have somebody here who just got out of jail. They have no money. They went in the summer. Now it's winter and they're here in a tank top. What can help me? And they would say, well, what is your long-term treatment plan? And I said, a bed for tonight. And after that went on for a while, at some point I got really annoyed and I said, well, what I really said was fuck it, but I'm not supposed to say that. But I said, fuck it, I'm going to start my own. And money was coming into LA for homelessness from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Act. And I wrote a grant under the auspices of Gateways Hospital, which was our parent organization. It was a mental health center for a homeless reentry program for Jewish men and women coming out of jails and prisons. Got a one-time grant to buy an old house in downtown LA. It was actually barrio adjacent. I had no operating budget at all. I was single at the time. I moved in. I lived in my office and people came. And I was still going to jail and telling people, hey, if you want a place to go when you get out, come visit us at 216 South Lake Street. And they started to come. And the first week, they stole my jewelry. And then they helped me look for it. And that was when I learned the definition of an addict. There's somebody who steals your stuff and helps you look for it. But I didn't quit because I had been called. And we gave people community, and we gave them hope, and we gave them a sense of meaning and purpose. And you will hear from Johan in a few minutes that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And I think that's what Beit Tshuva has been for thousands of people over the years, a place to connect. Brene Brown, who I'm sure some of you have read, differentiates between fitting in and belonging. And she says that fitting in is when you have to give up a part of yourself in order to be accepted. And belonging is when you bring your whole self, well, your broken self, and you find acceptance. And that's what a community is. A community of connection is a place where you can bring all your broken parts and find connection with other vulnerable people. And it is my hope that faith communities begin to be places where people feel comfortable bringing their broken selves. I know that in my own experience with organized religion, that was a place where you brought your false self. where you dressed up to look pretty and you pretended you were perfect and you pretended your family was perfect. And there was no opportunity for people to connect because they couldn't be vulnerable and authentic. And so that has become my brand and the brand of Beit Tshuva. The love story part is that after about a year, I got a call from a rabbi at the state prison at Chino. And he said, my congregation here heard that you opened this place for men and women to come when they get out of prison. Would you like to come and talk about it? And I said, sure, because I loved going to prison. I loved leaving too. So I went, and the rabbi's inmate clerk was Mark Borovitz, who you heard from last night. He was not yet a rabbi, and he was not yet my husband. And he was the spokesperson for the congregation there, challenging me what kind of a liberal, social worker, what do you know about the needs of criminals? And I said to him, look, if I'm out here doing the work and you're in here, smart ass, when you get out of here, why don't you come help me? And one day the man showed up and he said, here I am, I've come to help you. And we became friends and we became partners and we became lovers. And when the American Jewish University opened a rabbinic school, Mark had already been teaching Torah to the people at Beit Tshuva. And I said, hey, why don't you go to rabbinic school? And I thought about, free cruises that we would get together, and what a wonderful thing it would be for me to become a Rebbitzin. That's the wife of a rabbi. And it was a miracle, another miracle, that he was accepted, a former felon accepted to a new rabbinic school. And together, he became the spiritual director and I was the clinical director. And we designed a program that was a blend of spirituality, Jewish wisdom, psychotherapy, and the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, all of which are paths to wholeness. They have different languages, they have different approaches, but the goal is the same: to help people fill the hole in the soul with holiness instead of with drugs, alcohol, and other aberrant behaviors. And that is, to me, holiness. Wholeness is holiness. And it's accepting that the parts of you that you don't like, that you don't want to have, will always be there, and to get rid of shame and blame, because that's where shame and blame come from not accepting and trying to disown that part of yourself. And so owning it and transforming it is what recovery is. And I differentiate between sobriety and recovery. I think sobriety is about the symptom. It's about you don't drink or use or gamble or all the other things that are the symptom of your addiction. But recovery is the lifelong process of integrating your opposing parts, connecting the parts of yourself so that you can connect with other human beings, with community, with meaning and purpose. And so at some point we stopped calling addiction, Beit Tshuva, a place to treat addiction, and we said, recover your passion, discover your purpose. And we created a whole menu of activities, creative ventures where people could could discover passion and purpose. We have a band, we have a play that goes around about addiction in the Jewish family. We had a graphic design and marketing company, a thrift store, a music studio, and people were able then to have a reason to continue in recovery and to stay sober so that they could recover their passion and discover their purpose. So I think now my time is up, and if anybody wants to make comments or questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Mark, anything else?
Harriet, we're here. I don't know. Can you see us? You can't really see us, can you?
I can't see anybody. All I see
Oh,
is
okay. All right. Does anybody have a question for Harriet?
or a comment.
Comment? So who's in charge in your home? Is it you or the rabbi?
It depends.
Harriet is.
No,
Said Harriet.
we have different areas of expertise. And Mark
That's
takes care of
That's right.
most of the things.
So you guys have left Beit Shuvah. What's next for the two of you?
Well, we don't know exactly. This is a time of transition, of living in a kind of liminal space. This was our life. It defined us for 35 years. And both of us still have a lot to say and a lot to give, and we have a message. And I think it's a bigger message than just addicts who identify as addicts. It's the message of you don't have to be an addict to be in recovery, that all people need a program of recovery and a way to feel whole, because all human beings have this inner conflict and don't talk about it often. And so somewhere, somehow, I think we will find our mission together and separately. And it isn't clear yet.
I for the longest time thought my calling was to get recovering people into church. And it wasn't until after being a pastor for many years that I realized my real challenge was getting church people into recovery.
Ah, very good.
So, yeah. So you guys did a movie recently, didn't you? Do you want to say a word about that?
It's a documentary. Interesting how that happened. There was a person in recovery who was in an AA meeting right around the time of the Jewish holidays several years ago, and he had just moved to Los Angeles. And he said, where the hell am I going to go for high holidays? And they said, hey, there's this Beit Shuvah place where they have wonderful services, and they integrate Judaism with the 12 steps. And so he came to high holiday services at Beit Shuvah, and he's a filmmaker. And he said, hey, wow, this is amazing. I've never seen anything like this. I want to tell your story. And he made a film called The Jewish Jail Lady and the Holy Thief, about Mark and me and how we started Beit Shuvah. And he interviews a lot of the people in recovery. And it's going to film festivals now, going all over the country, actually. And I don't know what that will bring, but it was certainly is spreading the message.
Well, Harriet, I think you've quieted a whole room of folks with your story. We really appreciate you sharing yourself with us, and it's really sad that you and Mark aren't able to be here. But there's next year, and we'll bring you back.
Good. Nobody else wants to say anything, huh? I shut them all up.
I'll check again. Yeah, well, they're listening. Here we go.
I just want to say thank you so much. That was just amazing and inspiring. And you and your husband are just, I don't know, I just loved your authenticity and just your passion and just everything, how God has brought just your whole journey and how you were able to share it. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know, I don't think you could hear our applause after your talk. So everyone in here was very engaged in your story. And since you can't see, I know that's kind of a challenge for you to know what's actually going on. But anyway, thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity.
And listen to Johan Hari because he's amazing.
Yes.
We have another comment or question here. Just a second.
I'd also like to reiterate what, is it Joanne? Julie had said, is that you can't hear us, and the humor and good nature, and just you're such a remarkable woman. Thank you so much. This has really made the day. And all that being said, we've been, in workshops and listening to things, and we're kind of totally toast right now. So coming up with even good comments is a little hard.
All right. Well, thanks for the feedback.